how did NASA lose the moon landing tapes? Are you guys aware of this? This is one of the reasons why they say they couldn't go back to the moon, is because they lost the data. They basically, I've seen a few documentaries talking about this, and NASA says that they didn't lose the tapes. They recorded over them. Somehow, the best funded, NASA, again, especially back then, right? The so-called space race. NASA could get all the funding they want. But they actually told publicly, they said, look, yeah, we lost the telemetry data and stuff. We had to record over it because we ran out of tapes. Have you guys heard that excuse? I'm not making that up. And yeah, I know why a lot of people think it's fake, right? It's like because of silly shit they put out like that. Like, what do you mean you taped over? So that's this one of the, and again, the moon landing thing. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess, y'all. It's a shit show. We're never going to know the truth, like, with a lot of this shit. But moon landing is such a mess. And I think, they purposely put all this shit out for a reason. They just want people to be confused. Like,
technology to get us to the moon. You just happened to lose it?
They lost the tapes of the moon landing. What you watch when Neil Armstrong climbs off the LEM, One Small Step for Man, that was projected on a wall in NASA, and when asked why don't we go back, NASA said, well, we can't replicate that technology. It's too difficult. We already did that, man, didn't we? 17 times or whatever?
Unbelievable.
I don't buy it.
I want to talk about the moon landing.
so again, this is for years, all right? What he's saying, I've seen, and I'm able to verify from what I've seen and heard in different documentaries and stuff, different interviews, that, yeah, NASA's had all these excuses of why they haven't went back to the moon publicly, right? One of them was, yeah, we lost the tapes. Again, I've seen interviews where certain NASA officials have went on the record and said, yeah, we recorded over it because we had to. We had to use the tapes to record other stuff. This is shit they said.
What got you interested in the moon landing?
That was an episode that people just demanded. I didn't want to do it because everyone's done the moon landing. And are you talking about the Stanley Kubrick one? Because I've done a few moon videos. I think I have a whole compilation.
I probably watched all of them, but I know the Stanley Kubrick thing was in there, how the shadows don't align, but let's go into it. I want to... we could talk about the moon shit forever. There's so much bullshit with the moon landing to go over. And in my opinion, there's good arguments on both sides, right? But yeah, Stanley Kubrick, like there's a whole documentary, I think, what's his name? Jay Widener. How Stanley put, and this is this filmmaker's, his interpretation of the clues that Stanley Kubrick has left in his movies about the moon landing being a hoax. The moon landing shit, man, the rabbit hole is deep out here for those who might not know. And yeah, we're here for the bullshit.
It's an episode that still confounds me. I go back and forth depending on who I talk to about whether it really happened. And I think the percentage of Americans who don't believe that we went to the moon is just rising every year.
Yeah, for good reason. What do you guys think? Now, again, I'm not... See, there are people that say it was real, it was fake. And I get it. You can believe what you want. But at the end of the day, I don't know. So I'm not, with the moon landing, I can't say if it's fake or if it's real. I'm not going to go 10 toes down on one or the other because there's just too much bullshit. I don't know. Like I said, there are good arguments on both sides. And that's the thing, that with this stuff, we've been kind of trained into thinking we have to pick a side with shit. And I've heard other people talk about stuff like this. And here's the thing. Number one, when things like this are presented to us, we're not, again, it's more of, hey, just waste your time trying to figure this out. I 100% am coming to understand that more now. Not to, it ain't about solving the moon landing mystery. Was it real or not? No. All right. That's not going to happen. At this point. So if you're looking into this stuff, it's like a balance. All right. Of not getting too caught up into it, but still, we'd like to ask questions. We kind of want to have an understanding what's real, what's not real, whatever. So, to go about it, as objectively as we can. That's all we can do out here. At this point, I'm not the guy that's going to say this is real, this is fake, believe this, I don't believe that. Sometimes, I'll give my opinion on certain stuff. But at the end of the day, it's up to everybody to come up with their own conclusions. We're just out here trying to find, look at information and try to come up with the best conclusions we can. And yeah, the moon landing is the gift that keeps on giving with this conspiracy shit, because it's hilarious. When I say hilarious, I mean the excuses are hilarious. The simple question: How come you never went back, NASA? We lost the tape. We taped over the tapes. Some of these guys have said, "Hey, we just forgot. Like, we don't know how to do it again." That shit's hilarious to me. That's why the moon landing shit's never gonna get old. I'm always gonna find new nuggets in there of silly excuses that these people make. It's very funny to me. Yeah, they say a lot of things. Duke says they say the flag is still there. Yeah, there's supposed to be all kinds of shit that they crashed into it to do these tests. Look, the moon shit is so... Man, it's just a lot of shit. It's a lot of bullshit. So what we know about the moon. So here's the thing for me. Here's the thing. If we say it's all fake, then that means what we know about the moon, based on these tests and stuff that NASA did with the Apollo missions, seismographs. Remember, they crashed whatever into it and, determined it was, reverberating. Like, so that's how they came up with the hollow. It's hollow. It's not solid because of these seismic tests they did. So, which one is it? You see? So if we say it's fake, everything is fake, then that means they're lying about all that shit. And trust me, we understand. These people lie their ass off. We understand this. But yeah, they're supposed to be like, where's the shit? You would think we would, don't we have shit flying around taking pictures of it? Like, there ain't no pictures of all the shit that we left up there. Didn't they leave the dune buggy up there? And they say, yeah, the flag's still there. Then they have a little plaque like, hey, welcome, Earth people were here type shit. All that shit's supposed to be on the moon, right? So yeah, what's going on? We're never gonna know. It's both. Here's my opinion. I'll say this. It's both. It was fake, and part of it was real. What I mean by that, this is the best I can do so far with the moon landing shit. I think it's possible. Either, I don't know about manned, all right, if people actually went up there and looked around, or if they just sent some probes up there. Here's the most comfortable, assumption I can make is that they did, NASA, whoever, did investigate the moon. They did somehow. Like I said, I don't know if they sent actual people or if they just sent, probes up there. But I'm thinking, that's the only logical thing I can come up with, is that it's both, okay? They did some shit, found out some shit, didn't want to tell people about it. So this whole moon program thing was like a cover for that. That's a theory that I've heard, and that's the one that makes the most sense to me at this point. Again, do I know if that's the case? No. But that's the only thing that's kind of makes sense. Yeah, now the moon as a whatever it is, see, that's a whole nother thing, right? People have been studying the moon for a long time. So again, the moon, it doesn't seem to be natural, right? It really can't be natural, okay? The position it's in, the size, everything doesn't happen randomly, okay? But we've been told this. That's the mainstream, and they're walking that back now. But the whole idea that the moon, again, they don't even have a concrete explanation mainstream. They just said, something smashed into Earth. Part of it, separated and coalesced. They're talking about the moon now. That's the theory. The last mainstream theory that they had was some kind of something hit the Earth, small piece broke off, somehow coalesced together, ended up becoming the moon. Magically, the right size, the right distance to benefit the Earth in a way that it does, as far as the tides and all this shit, like the weather patterns. None of this shit would be like this on Earth if it wasn't because of the moon being where it is. Okay. Exactly the right distance, the right size, all that shit. All right. That's obviously something going on there. It's not a random coincidence. How many of y'all agree with that? Some people don't, think it was random. That's fine. Right. The Apollo programs, Duke. Right. So that was the purpose. They were supposed to be studying the moon. But so that's what I mean. When you say it's all fake, so what part? So all the study shit, is that fake? So that's what I mean. So that's why I'm not, I don't just go with it's all fake, because, well, that means we really don't know what the fuck's going on then. Everything we know about the moon, a lot of it is from the Apollo missions, right? And I mean, there's a lot, again, people have been studying the moon, astronomers, back, whatever, early 1800s. People have been looking at the moon ever since, modern astronomy was around. People have been looking at the moon, recording things, recording anomalies. There are a lot of reports and documented, reports about weird people seeing weird shit on the moon. 1800s, late 1800, whatever. There's a lot of good documentaries that go over this stuff. And again, I don't know. I'm not saying I know what's all factual, or I'm just saying.
They lost the tapes, all the original tapes of the moon landing. What you watch when Neil Armstrong climbs off the LEM, One Small Step for Man, that's not a direct feed from anything. That was projected on a wall in NASA, and the networks aimed their camera at the wall to get like this projection. And the networks were like, "Hey, can we just get the direct feed? Because that would be a lot better." And they're like, "No, we're going to do it this way."
I never knew that. So the TV people were at NASA, and they just said, "All right, here it is." They put it on a wall and said, "You guys film that." That's the first time I've heard that one. And so there's another problem with the official moon story, in that they say they broadcasted it live. You guys remember that, right? You can look those clips up. Those, who was it? Not Tom. Who was the? So they literally. So that's another problem. That's a big problem. All right, with the moon, the official moon landing story. How did y'all live stream that? Nurse Healer, how's it going? It's no fucking way. All right, they did that back in 1960, 70. When was the moon landing? I forget. So these are the things that raise big questions, right? About these people obviously not being truthful, right? You did not live. They showed something on TV. They showed shit. So, but we know now. I don't care. I don't have to go through and point out the technical aspects of how you could not have live streamed some shit from the moon back in the late 60s, early 70s, whatever it was. Couldn't have did it. It's impossible. And, there's the whole thing. They beamed it back and they relayed it and it came through Australia and they relayed it to all the. It was not live. Okay. I'm not saying again. They did not. That shit was not live real time on the news like they said it was to people, right? I think everybody can agree. They had some long ass cables, right, Ed? They had a direct feed. That's the only way they could have did it back then. Y'all got that million fucking mile long video cable we need so we can stream this live on CBS? Like, come on, man. Right, it's impossible to stream that shit live back then. They can't even do it now. They cannot even do that shit now. Do you guys remember the Mars? It was some years back. They made a big deal out of it because it was supposed to be a live feed of this probe landing on Mars. Man, I got to look that up. And all we saw, does anybody know what I'm talking about? It looked like a white tabletop with like dark, it was black and white, number one. Low resolution. And then it was just white with black dots like that. But it was supposed to be this probe landing on Mars. You guys remember that? They made a big, they streamed that. Oh, the first, and that was one of the big deals that was supposed to be, it was the first live real-time video from this probe landing on Mars. And didn't show anybody shit, So it was worse quality. That's what I mean. The moon landing shit, high quality. The shit they did, a few years ago with this Mars thing, yeah. So again, man, we all know these people. That's their job. I ain't mad at them. I ain't mad at the people perpetuating all this foolishness. It's like I said, it's interesting, and we're here. We're here to have a good time going over it. Shirley says, "You're so right. Back lot in Hollywood." Yeah, one of the most so everybody watched the moon landing. They watched a moon landing. The question is, well, that's one thing I will say 100%. It was not live. Okay. I will say whatever people watched, I will go 10 toes down. It's one of the few times I'll do that. Whatever people watched back them live on TV was not in real time. I will say that, and I'll put whatever $5 I got in my pocket on that shit right now. They showed people something. It was not no live feed from the fucking moon. I don't care how many times you relayed it through Australia and Venice. Again, their whole story is bullshit with that. And so that alone, of course, you're going to question the whole thing, right? You have to question the whole thing. So the question for me is, man, did they just sit down and say, all right, we're just going to make all this shit up, and here's our plan? Or did they just come up with a little bit of it at a time, and then over time, because part of it seems like over time, they just started adding more bullshit and then started contradicting themselves with their explanations for things. You guys know what I'm saying? I'm paranoid, but I ain't that paranoid. These people just don't make much sense when it comes to shit like this, right? The more you listen to them and the longer, they should just stop talking about it. If you're NASA, don't you think, just stop talking about the moon? But no, they keep coming out. They keep coming out with these excuses. We did this, we did that. No, then we lost it, taped over it. Just don't stop talking about it.
And then they lost all those tapes. They lost the telemetry. And when asked, why don't we go back? NASA said, well, we can't replicate that technology. It's too difficult.
Yeah, isn't there?
And so the telemetry, that's another. Look, here are all the bullshit points that I'm aware of. All right, and that's why listening to these guys, I'm remembering stuff. The telemetry is supposed to be, okay. we got to go at this time, at this speed, so we can catch the gravitational slingshot thing, and then get very complex calculations were allegedly required to pull all this off, right? From what we're told, right? And we're led to believe, like, I'm not saying people couldn't have done it. But people figured it out, okay? But here's the thing. There was no room for error. Like, to pull it off the way they say they did, you couldn't be off. You couldn't be off by 1 inch, by 1 millisecond, whatever, what, like with these telemetry calculations. See, all, you guys understand what I'm saying? It's just too much. So when you look at the moon shit, like I'm doing now, like I'm starting to remember, like, oh my God, there's so much shit that we're supposed to believe they got it all perfect. The computers and shit they had, like, you ever hear the comparison? When you look at those old NASA videos, there's like, they got the reel-to-reel things, and there's just banks of these things, rooms of them. All that equals like one, not even like the computing power we have in our cell phones now is more than NASA had. All of NASA had back when they pulled this shit off. You guys understand that? We got more computer power in our cell phone than these motherfuckers had on the whole planet at the time. Like, all their resources don't equal what we carry around now. And they were able to pull all this shit off without a hitch. Now, there were some mistakes made, with the Apollo program. Astronauts, were injured and killed. There were accidents, test pilots, all this stuff. But I'm saying, and they did this in such a short amount of time, right? JFK got up there and said, hey, we're going to the moon in 10 years. And sure enough, they fucking did it. Or whatever it was. He gave a deadline, though. But that's what's funny, Shirley. Like, like, if you're like me, you've been trying to learn about this shit for a long time. So the moon, that's what I mean. It's just so wild. Like, there's no way it happened the way they said it did. Like, they got everything perfect. And and they were working with, basically, not even calculators. Like, how did you get all this complex math done? And how did you execute this shit? What? So these are the questions I ask, and so do other people,